Hello, Comfort. How are you doing?
I'm all right.
I'm Alma. Thank you very much for doing this. Okay. There seems to be a bit of confusion around the term refugee and asylum seeker and economic asylum seeker. Can we sort this out first? Can we define exactly the differentiate between these two terms?
Yeah, that's right. So basically, I think, migration as a whole, has people come here for different reasons. For a person to be an asylum seeker, the person is someone who has, flee any sort of crisis. Basically, it could be war, it could be for religious reasons, sexuality, it could be any reason for them to have flown away from their country or flee from their country, seeking protection um, in another country. And a refugee also is a person who has been, forced to flee also from their country, um, seeking protection. Um, the difference is on arrival to the UK. An asylum seeker is not allowed to work. An asylum seeker is not entitled to public funds, and an asylum seeker, um, are housed by the Home Office, and uh, you know, whereas a refugee comes in by resettlement. So maybe an example would be like the Afghanistan, Ukraine, Syria resettlement
Yeah.
program that is more of a government refugee resettlement. But when they come, they have the ability to work, the ability to access public funds, etc. And obviously, for someone who is an economic migrant, has migrated, to for a better life, I guess. I mean, all that's why I said migration as a whole, is to seek that protection for a better life. And an economic migrant would be someone who's come here to work, someone who has a family tie here, or someone who's had, some sort of education here and decides to continue to work in the UK.
Yeah. How many female refugees at the minute on Merseyside?
Unfortunately, I can't give that
Okay.
figure, but there are quite a number of female asylum seekers in Merseyside. Unfortunately, due to whether it's their case or due to the perception of some individuals, um, women don't naturally come out and speak that they are asylum seekers, and again, because of the stigma that is
Yeah.
attached to being an asylum seeker. So there is always this reservation when it comes to women actually saying, I'm an asylum seeker.
Well, speaking of what challenges do women in particular face? I mean, it's not the same experience as men, is it? Although I'm not denigrating or dismissing or belittling men's experience of being a refugee and you know and the whole trauma of it, but women's experience of it is a little bit different, isn't it?
It is different. When it comes to women, there are a lot of factors that we need to look at. You know, they sometimes, if a woman has flown any sort of crisis, whether it's domestic abuse, trafficking, um, you know, whatever it is that they've, you know, fled their country to come to the UK for, when they arrive here, there is a lot of times there is that mistrust, there is that lack of trust, um, there is that fear of the unknown, especially women with children, trying to build their lives. Um, like you said, it's not us saying like men don't face the same thing, but a woman with a child, you can imagine,
Mm.
trying to go through this process of asylum, the asylum process, which is very, very, overwhelming, and also taking care of their self and their children, can even be more overwhelming. Women are more likely to be exploited, because of their vulnerability. So these are for like single women who don't really understand their rights, and they've fled their country to the UK. They're likely to face, some sort of challenges that they faced from where they're coming from. There is also the language barriers. If they've come and they don't understand the basic English language, and they will struggle. So it's not the same for women as it is for men, in my own opinion.
Yeah, and I think there's also that adage of trafficking, as well as being trafficked. On top of everything else, there is that threat there, isn't there? That sort of on
Yes.
top of having to deal with everything else that.
Yes, it is. There is a lot, once they've been through that journey, there is always that fear of it, reoccurring again.
What's needed to fix this problem? I mean, it's a massive problem, isn't it? I know, but what can we do? What's needed? I mean, I know government help as well as our own.
Well, that is it basically. I mean, policy change, policies that would protect women, policies that would make women rebuild their life in a safe environment, and as a general public, is to be more welcoming, more welcoming in the sense that, people can literally, the way the country responded to Ukraine was fantastic. That should spread across board, across anyone seeking sanctuary in the UK, and not make people who are fleeing from other sort of crises feel a certain way. We should be more welcoming to everyone, regardless of where they've come from, regardless of, their situation. My favorite quote is this poem. That's just a little part of it that says, "No one puts their child on a boat except, the water is safer than the land." And if you think about it, there is always a reason why a person has to flee their home, to come here, whether it's as an asylum seeker, a refugee, or even an economic migrant who just want to better their life, get a job and, just work and just be able to support themselves and their family. It doesn't matter. There is always a reason why they've left somewhere they were born, somewhere they're used to. If everything was rosy, I doubt anyone would be fleeing their country in the first place. So there is always a reason for a person to leave. I mean, if you have to move from, let's say, Liverpool to London, there is a reason. It doesn't matter. Even if you're just going to live with your family, or you're moving with your partner, or there is always a reason for something. And for these individuals, it's more life-threatening reasons, and should be welcome. There should be an open arms in the community to welcome refugees, asylum seekers, migrants in general, so that they can rebuild their life and not being re-traumatized, with, the situation that they're fleeing from.
Well, this is where Refugee Women Connect come in, isn't it? And you've welcomed refugees with open arms. Tell us all about what you do.
Yes, so Refugee Women Connect is such an amazing organization that provides support for women seeking sanctuary in the UK, migrant women generally, because we've kind of like evolved from time, started as a perinatal group, and now we're providing ad hoc casework, obviously not on the legal capacity, but more of an information side of things, where women can come and get information about anything really. Where we're not able to provide the support, we make sure we refer, we signpost as women. Like I said, we provide both practical and holistic support, and we do that in different ways. We have the early action that deals with, welcoming, the women at the early stage, giving them information about the asylum system and informing them about their rights. and also the mental health team providing one-to-one support. I think that is one of the gaps that is yet to be, covered. Mental health, when the person arrived in the UK, due to the trauma they've been through, there isn't a lot of mental health support for these people, and statutory support isn't what they're entitled to. So we provide one-to-one support, mental health for the women, mental health support on a one-to-one basis for the women. And also we have the perinatal team that ensure that moms and babies or moms with children, have basic essentials. I mean, with the cost of living crisis, the little that we can do to support our moms and our babies, we do our best. And also we have this amazing group called the EBE's Experts by Experience, which are women with lived experience who come together, and what we do is basically look into policies, see how we can raise awareness of the issues that affect women, and also make suggestions, because it's one thing to see the problem but then have no answer to it. But we look at the problems and we make suggestions, whether it's in writing to our MPs or just having a campaign work where we raise our voices, about issues that impact or affect women. And also, we just have our drop-ins. We have our drop-in centers, which is like a safe space for the women to come and socialize, reduce isolation in whatever sorts. We serve food, hot food, we have teas and coffee, biscuits on the table. We have play areas for the children, with our amazing volunteers, were able to run our drop-ins. They're superb. They come in every week, to ensure that the drop-ins are well run. We do provide some sort of, basic essentials, especially for the new arrivals, toiletries, and, just for them to be able to settle in properly. And not just in Liverpool, we have a drop-in space at St. Helens and Halton. We go into hotels, to also see how best we can support those who are in the hotel, because you can imagine it is quite isolating in the hotel, and they have little or no, social gathering around the area. So we go in there and make sure, the women and children that are there are in the best way, are, encouraged, if you will, in that sort. So yeah, Refugee Women Connect just has a way of just doing their best. We do our best to, meet the needs of any woman that come into our space. It doesn't matter what sort of way you've come into the UK, we ensure that all women are safe. And that is our key thing, that when women come into our space, they feel safe, they feel free, they're empowered, there are trainings that we go through. There are any opportunities for training. We also have our ESOL class, forgot to mention that, which is amazing. Yeah, we have amazing volunteers who do ESOL, help the women register into college. By the time we've seen that, okay, it's time for them to move on, they can go into college. The registrations would help, with all that. But we have our amazing ESOL table. We also have our art table now. One thing that is very important, I think, is storytelling, and we do that in various ways. Our art table tells stories with their drawing, so the women would come and drop amazing pictures that tells a lot of stories, whether it's a personal story or a friend story. But the art table is an amazing table. The women come there to express themselves, and it's also a therapeutic table, I must say. When they come out of the art table, they always feel very relieved. They always feel that they've done something really beautiful, and they come up with amazing art. I mean, arts that my colleague literally would take into exhibitions, etc. And it's just so beautiful the way the drop-in session is structured. We also have the opportunity for dancing, and we have a yoga teacher who comes in to help. It's just a whole package, you see. So it's just a beautiful space for any woman seeking sanctuary in the UK. Any migrant woman who just want to socialize can also come into the space.
And it's just so important to have that there, isn't it? Because you can imagine it's already traumatic to have to come to leave your home, and under the circumstances that you've left your home, and then a completely new culture and the isolation, or I mean the mental stress even before you get to your destination just must be through the roof.
Yeah.
So to have people like you and your organization waiting there, you know, to just point the way as well as giving pastoral sort of care, it's just absolutely significant, isn't it? I noticed that you are also a member of the Sisters Not Strangers Coalition. I was intrigued about this because there seems to be a network of organisations like yours that are pulling together and doing this fantastic job, you know.
Yeah, that's right. During the pandemic, I think it was important for charity organizations, you know, like ours, you know, to come together and work in collaboration. It was a time the nation needed to work together, you know, to support each other. So Sisters Not Strangers started during the pandemic, where we shared how we were supporting, you know, our service users. And we started as 8 organizations. I mean, we're 7 now, but we started as an 8 organization. And what we do is basically just ideas, sharing ideas, you know, best practice, and also raise awareness. So we are also campaigners in Sisters Not Strangers. So we campaign again about, obviously, like destitution was something that was really key to all the 8 organizations that was part of it, because during the pandemic we had a lot of people who didn't necessarily qualify for statutory support or the home office support, if you will, that were destitute during those times. And I think it was important for Sisters Not Strangers to raise their voices and, you know, hope for that change where, you know, women are not left on the streets so that they're not easily exploited for whatever reason. Not just that, we campaign against, you know, the Nationality and Borders Bill, which we thought, you know, should be scrapped. We look at ways how we can also support women who are in detention. So basically, it's just an amazing correlation that all these organizations from different part of the UK come together to discuss mutual, you know, issues or whatever that is going on in their area that needs campaigning for.
How difficult is it to become, you know, to actually be accepted? I don't just mean culturally. I'm more interested in how difficult it is to the process of immigration. Is it really rigorous and difficult hurdle to get over? I mean, you can't just sort of rock up and say, you know, we've seen it on the news just how rigorous it can be and how, you know, difficult.
It is difficult. Words fail me in terms of how to describe how difficult it is. It is daunting. It is yeah, it's unbelievable. So there are different process for an asylum seeker. I mean, that's why I'm happy you had to explain both. Even the refugees also have their challenges, despite the fact that they are resettled by the government. You know, they've been brought in by the government. You know, the ideal world would be they come in, they're able to get an accommodation. You know, they're able to get into employment, children go into schools. But the case is different because Refugee Women Connect had the privilege of working, you know, with the Afghan families when they arrived in 2021. Yeah. And, you know, some of the issues that we found was they were in the hotel longer than anticipated. You know, there were children who were supposed to be in schools that weren't. And so it's not as easy as, oh, you know, they're in the country, easy peasy. There is a house for you. There's a job for you. It doesn't work that way. There's so many hurdles that they had to, you know, climb. And then in terms of an asylum seekers, a series of interviews that one has to go through. There is the waiting time. I mean, we could, you know, from the news, you would have heard a lot of backlogs in the home office. And, you know, the waiting time is so depressing for a lot of people. And, you know, the uncertainty, am I going to be granted? Am I going to be refused? And if you've stayed in a particular place for over 12 months, a year, or more than a year, you're already integrating into the community.
Yeah.
And to be refused and to be asked to move back to your home country, sometimes it's very, I mean, not sometimes, it's just short-minded, because how do you, there's so many people who've lived in the UK for over 10 years that are still waiting for their status to be granted. Some of them have been refused and they've made an appeal. It's just so many hurdles for an asylum seekers. And you get to a point where you've been refused a couple of times, you don't even have physical cash anymore. You can't, the £45, it's nowhere anymore, because you get the Aspen card, you can only go shopping to buy food with it. So it's not as what some of the general public perceive that it is, that is just easy. It's not. It is hard. And for the economic migrants, if you want to call them, or for those granted discretionary leave, it's costly. They have to pay for every renewal. It's not cheap. For someone with a family life visa, they are currently paying £1,033 each person and £1,560 for NHS surcharge. That's just for one person. If you are a family of 2, 3, 4, 5, you can imagine how much you'll be paying every 2.5 years to renew your leave to remain in the country. And that alone in itself can cause a lot of depression, where you're working so hard, you don't see your children, so you're raising this money to pay the home office, or you're not able to work so that you can get a fee waiver, because you have to be able to prove destitution. So you'd have a lot of people with great skills that can contribute to the community, but with the cost of living crisis, who's going to raise such an amount of money? Yeah. Even the thought of it just makes one feel very depressed. It makes one feel very low. And this is a 10-year route.
Well, Comfort, I'm really sorry that we have to not cut it short, so, but our time is up, I'm afraid, on this interview. But where can we find you and all your details?
Yes, so like I said, Refugee Women Connect, we do all our work through funding, and it would be great if people can donate. It doesn't matter how much it is, £5, £10. You can set up a direct debit with us, or you could just give a one-off donation. You can do that via our website, which is www.refugeewomenconnect.org.uk. And you can also follow us on our social media platform to keep up with the work that we do. On our Twitter handle, it is refugee_women, and on Instagram, we're Refugee Women Connect. Our Facebook is also Refugee Women Connect. We do have an online event coming up on the 19th of June, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., where we're going to be talking about everything Refugee Women Connect. Do you want to know more about what we do? Do you want to understand why we do what we do? Join us on the 19th. Trust me, you will not want to miss that day. It's full of other entertainment as well from our women. But we look forward to seeing a lot of people join us on that day.
Comfort Etim, thank you so very much for speaking to us today. I know you're very busy, and I appreciate your time, and wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Now, take care. Bye.